Welcome to this episode of Eureka, and we are at Bhopal. We are at the Advanced Material and Processes Research Institute, AMPRI for short, a constituent of CSIR. It's at Bhopal, and we are going to have a very interesting conversation with its director, Avanish Kumar Srivastava. Before we continue this conversation, we are going to take a quick look at his brief profile. After the break, we are going to continue this conversation.
Materials innovation is important in fostering technological growth that promotes the well-being of the society and also in being able to meet the challenges of enhancing and protecting our environment. It is where Dr. Avanish Kumar Srivastava has extensively worked. Currently, he is the director of CSIR Advanced Materials and Processes Research Institute at Bhopal. He received his master's degree in physics from the Indian Institute of Technology in Roorkee, M.Tech in Material Sciences from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, and doctorate in metallurgy from the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. Dr. Avanish Srivastava serves as an expert for nanoscale measurements and instrumentation at ISO and BIS. He was instrumental in establishing the high-resolution electron microscopy and spectroscopy facilities at CSIR, NPL, New Delhi and AMPRI, Bhopal. His prolific research on the growth of engineering materials and understanding of nucleation growth, phase transformations, microstructures and defects is outstanding and known by his peers worldwide. His outstanding contributions on nanostructured metal oxides, graphene and several 2D materials and other semiconductors to improve the performance of display devices and energy harvesting is noteworthy. Dr. Srivastava has reported 2 crystal structures in polymer tungsten oxide nanostructures and also elaborated the concept of irrational twinning of cubic crystals leading to quasi-periodic structures. His work on DNA-CNT coupling is exemplary in biotechnology. He is instrumental in transferring 7 technologies to leading companies. Dr. Srivastava is president of the Electron Microscope Society of India and also an eminent member of Governing Council of TIFAC, Government of India. Dr. Srivastava has received many honours. Noted among them is Metallurgist of the Year, Ministry of Steel, Government of India Award 2011 and Fellow of the Indian Institute of Metals in the year 2014.
Welcome back to Eureka. We are going to have a very wonderful conversation with Dr. Avanish Kumar Srivastava. Thank you, sir. It's a very wonderful institute. We are going to really have a very wonderful conversation. Yeah. I see here. It's a very interesting stuff. Yeah. If you are in North India, particularly before onset of winter, huge pollution problem. Many people say that this pollution problem is because farmers around Delhi and around are kind of burning the stubble. And that's what is causing the air pollution, creating considerable problem for people. Yes. So you have come up with a solution, and that solution is this, right? Yeah. So explain to us, can you?
Actually, I knew that problem because I am from National Physical Laboratory.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, I mean, during winter, when winter just starts in the month of October sometime, this problem starts. Yeah. Okay. And then a time comes when even schools are closed, children are not going outside and all those things. Now in media you can hear Delhi is in gas chamber and all those things, serious problems. And it's really a serious problem. And mainly in Delhi, Punjab, Haryana and some part of UP, it is there. So when I came here and I found that there is a group working on this composites, agro waste based composites. So then I got involved in that, and I discussed and I visited here and saw that yes, probably we can do something. And then we went to Haryana.
Okay.
And NIT Kurukshetra, I was already visiting. We had one joint PhD student also. And I met one professor there, material science at that time, and director NIT Kurukshetra, Dr. Satish Kumar is there. So we met them and we said, yes, we have a solution. And then we went to farmers.
Collected actual saddle.
Collected actual thing.
And then came back here.
Came back here.
And then
And we developed. And now this is just an example. We can develop different shape, size,
okay.
and different color.
Yeah.
And this is good for house building, sofa, furniture, doors,
Yeah.
all those things we can do that. So we have developed different kind of products, permutation, combination, different thickness, different weight, everything can be.
So you have the technology for
We
this.
have technology.
And we also see here where by using various technology, number of waste materials
Yeah.
you have been able to convert.
I
So
can
let's
tell you
look at this.
marble waste.
So it's basically from marble
Yeah,
waste.
you see this Rajasthan area, and wherever this marble industries that they are cutting these stones, and marble is there in millions of tons,
Yeah.
and it's not environment friendly also.
Yeah,
It's dangerous. So we have a complete solution. It's not that there is some byproduct left. No, we can make a composite out of it.
Okay.
So that is the kind of technology we have.
So that one looks like a granite.
This is a granite finish. This is developed out of Tata Power project.
Okay.
And so they wanted that if we can develop some granite finish product out of their byproduct, fly ash.
Okay. So from the coal power plant,
Yes.
the waste,
Yeah.
which otherwise again goes around the atmosphere causing pollution problem. right?
Nobody is taker. It's freely available. It's only the transport that cost is there.
So then, but you can make a
Big size.
very good.
Yeah, this is good for kitchen and all those purposes. They are they are quite happy, and our this project part is done. Now we are in the stage of like technology transfer to Tata Power.
Okay. Okay. So you also use various kinds of agro waste into usable materials, right?
Yeah, like sizzle fiber is another. It's not a waste; it's a plant. You can grow whenever you want and wherever you want.
Okay.
It doesn't require much water.
But why that fiber is very important?
This has got the best mechanical strength.
Okay. Okay.
Naturally, natural fibers, whatever we have among them, this has got the best mechanical strength. So when you have this kind of fiber, you can then make out of that composites.
Yeah, that's I think a very interesting aspect. And this division, you are calling it as.
I would just like to add in that this sizzle fiber. This technology also we have recently transferred to West Bengal government
Okay.
under this Manrega program just last year. So their officers came here, 7 officers came, and they got well trained. So it's very good for rural employment also. Like for less educated people, they can be employed here. They can grow in all that farming land. They can grow this, and then come out with that sizzle fiber. They can make different kind of products.
That's very interesting. And you are calling this initiative as green composite.
Green hybrid composite.
Green hybrid composites. I mean, it's green because
eco-friendly.
you are eco-friendly, you are removing waste from the surrounding, but making it into a useful product. We'll take a very short break now. Keep watching Eureka. We'll come back with conversation after a short break. Welcome back to Eureka. We are having a very wonderful, very insightful conversation with Dr. Avanish Kumar Srivastava. He is the director of AMPRI in Bhopal, Advanced Material and Processing Research Institute, a constituent of CSIR. Before the break, we went to one of your lab which was working on green hybrid materials, right? Yeah. So now let me again shift. Before coming here, you were in NPL.
Yes.
I mean, after your PhD, I mean, that's the first job and perhaps the only job that you applied for.
Yes.
Yeah. So you joined there. And then that was also a kind of a new challenge for you, right? So when you joined there, then the director of NPL gave you a completely new work, right? Not something that you had earlier worked on. What was this new area that was given to you there?
You see, when I joined, Professor ESR Gopal was there as director, and I joined in Metals and Alloys Group. And that time there was metal matrix composite work was going on.
Okay.
Aluminium silicon carbide, aluminium alloy silicon carbide composite, using liquid casting fluid. So having expertise in material science overall, I used that knowledge. And then yes, we did very good work on aluminium silicon carbide composite. There were certain projects with ISRO, DRDO. So being a new scientist, I was part of that. Probably I am the costliest inventor of NPL because because then I purchased that TM with EDS. Very good facility we established, 300 kV TM. It was rare facility especially in North India with EDS and all, with field emission gun. And we really enjoyed with that microscope.
See, when this came and then nanotechnology was established as one area within the NPL, this was also the time that one of the major mandate of NPL, which is characterization and standardization, that was coming up, right? So nanotechnology in India, we had to have some standards, some ISO standards. You took up that challenge.
So what happened that during that process, I mean, it's always head of institute support is required. We established finally a nanoscience center in NPL, where high-end facilities like HRTM, high resolution TM, and SIMS, surface this secondary and mass spectroscopy, and some other techniques we established in nanoscience center. And nanotechnology things were quite demanding across the globe. Everybody was trying to develop some new materials and then understanding of the material. So a person who is having the expertise in different areas definitely will be in demand by default. And so far there are more than 21,000 standards in ISO as a whole. But in nanotechnology, I think still it's not more than 60 standards. 60.
But why do you need a standard? I mean, what is it? I mean, can you give us an example?
You need a standard like suppose you want to buy a 20 nanometer size silver particle, a gold particle. Okay, you go to market, vendor will give you a bottle. Nicely, it is written some size and all. But when you look at the microscope, it may be 15 nanometer, 30 nanometer, or some range. So that is why standards are important.
And nano scales, the standard, I mean, the size varies. I mean, the properties completely.
Properties will entirely different. A 10 nanometer gold nanoparticle and 60 nanometer gold nanoparticle will have different.
I mean, if I shine light, they will reflect color.
Optical properties and in some cases like other mechanical properties, electrical properties, various things changes. And all this photonic properties, photoluminescence
and one of your paper which you wrote at that time is even still today people are referring to it, something like close to about 500 citations. It has gone. It's a graphene
silver nanoparticle based.
So what is it actually? What did you do? What did you construct? Graphene we all understand, it's a thin layer of graphite, right? Nanoscale.
Let me tell you a little brief event behind that. In 2001, I went to France, Paris, for 1 year. And so there I worked on nanoscience using electron microscopy, electron energy loss spectroscopy. And that was the time when people were trying to understand how these nanomaterials form, starting from the nucleation. So I also got involved. And we worked on antimony nanoclusters. And that was truly very fundamental work. Nanoclusters, how do they form during deposition, then how they grow, all those things. And we published first paper from Nanoletter from NPL with Paris collaboration. First Nanoletter from NPL. So that was in Nanoletter, and we did those experiments in 2001, 2002. But it took 4 years to understand
what actually was.
And we published only in 2006. So then in 2006, I went to Germany for a sabbatical. So there only I could see
This paper came.
Yeah. So I wrote to the then director NPL, Professor Vikram Kumar, that this is the work published. And then I was expecting excellent and all that, but it did not happen. He said, but that is where the mentor's role really is important. So he wrote that, yes, very good work, but similar work you should be able to do at NPL.
Okay, that's a point.
That's a point. So it was not a challenge, but it was a point. So I wrote back, yes, I'll do that. So when I came back, and by that time we established this high resolution TM facility and all, we worked on this graphene. Graphene layers, it's an agglomeration problem. When you have layers, they get stacked.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like when I have two sheets of graphene, if I keep, maybe they will stick on one to
They
other,
will
right?
stick.
So then you lose your nano.
Two surfaces have gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And nano, basically, surface to volume ratio is very important. So we worked on this and we tried to put silver nanoparticles between the layers.
Okay, so that separation will be there.
Yeah, so depending on the size of the nanoparticle, you can have different separation. So that paper then we published in a small journal. And that has got now around 500 citations.
Because that was a pioneering.
Yeah, it was a pioneering work.
So now we are standing in one of your lab,
Yeah.
which is one of the crucial area in AMPRI, where you are trying to produce foams, metal foams. So most of us would have seen foams made out of
Plastic, polymer.
Yeah. So why this metal foam?
Metal foam has got its own advantage. You see, polymer foam, these plastic foams, first thing their stability, thermal stability. Okay. And then their mechanical properties, which is entirely different when we have this metallic foam, because it has got metallic characteristic.
Okay.
Now, depending on the size of the pore, you can vary the density of the material. When you vary the density, you vary the weight of the material. Okay.
So a lot of uses are there.
Lot of uses.
Like
Mechanical shock.
and also thermal sink.
Yes.
So I mean, because if you have a large number of pores, it also means large number of surface area.
Large number of surface area.
So it means that easily you can dissipate
It
heat.
can be even used for energy storage, those kind of applications. But our intention when we, this work at AMPRI was started, it is for automobile industries, aircraft structures, those kind of things. But now it has got diversified applications.
So where are you? I mean, you wanted to support the aircraft industry and automobile industry with this metallic foam. Where are you now?
We are in very good shape. We are in very good leading this automobile industries. We are having dialogues. Their senior officials are coming here discussing with us, and very soon we hope that some of this metallic foam material will be taken up. Even with the strategic sector also, we are in this discussion. And they have shown interest like in marine and aircraft. So we are in discussion with them.
Okay, I saw one very interesting instrument here. While one is talking about automobiles, aircraft and defense, there is also one very interesting box which can give you.
Yeah, this is again from the foam, outer foam, that you can make a kind of cage. Small, you can say small refrigerator, especially for rural people where you don't have electricity, or they are not so rich that they can afford big size fridge. You can give them, and then vegetables and day-to-day food items can be kept inside.
At least you can get some cool water during summer, right?
Yeah, you can get cool water.
And then this principle is like basically like a mud pot, right? Evaporation cooling.
Sure. And very soon I think we will give technology in this direction to some company who can go and deploy these things in some.
I would certainly look forward to it, and this is where we will take another short break. Keep watching Eureka. This conversation will continue after a very short break. Welcome back to Eureka. We are having a very insightful conversation with Dr. Avanish Kumar Srivastava, and he is the director of AMPRI for short, which is a constituent unit of CSIR. Most of us would have visited at least one time to a X-ray institute for taking X-ray. right? And you would have seen that there are lead enclosures so that the radiation does not affect the people who are taking X-ray or does not leak outside the room. The lead, these people are saying, we want to replace with a new material, a new composite material. So I'm going to ask him first, why do you want to replace lead? After all, it has been working for hundreds of years. So why do you want to replace lead? After all, it's been working for 100 years and everybody knows lead is a good shield for radiation.
Yeah. So lead is a toxic material.
Okay.
So when you are using lead lining,
lead,
so it's a toxic material. You're surrounded with toxic material. And second thing, lead is like you are importing.
Okay. So it's not a material available readily in India.
It's not available material.
And you mean to say that if I put a lining of lead, the lead will leach from the walls?
It will not leach, but it's a toxic material, first thing. And you are there to secure your health, but you are surrounded with lead.
Okay.
So the material which we have developed, CSIR-AMPRI Bhopal, using the radiation, this red mud, which is a byproduct of alumina industries. And red mud is having a good content of iron oxide.
Okay.
But with this red mud, we combined with some other material, some other composition, is our IPR product by now. So then we come out with this radiation shielding material.
This is the shield.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's eco-friendly, non-toxic.
And
there is no
Indian
lead in this. Okay. And it's utilizing all your waste, which is red mud, available millions of tons.
So this thickness, okay, will replace what thickness of lead?
It will replace the 6 mm thickness of lead, which is normally being used.
Normally the lining is done with, so basically instead of that, I mean, you can use this.
So in hospitals especially, where all this X-ray room, CT scan room, cath lab, you can use, instead of this lead lining, you can use this tiles. And we transferred this technology first to a company in Delhi, near Delhi.
Okay.
And they developed tiles. And then we took a challenge. The new hospital, the Saidip Healthcare, privately hospital in Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. So their chairman and managing director of that hospital, he himself conveyed that we got A+ grade of that hospital. Now then, we have very recently transferred this technology to another very leading company in the country, very leading country. And they are also getting orders from very big hospitals coming up in the country. And we hope that within a month or two, this new company will launch this product in a very big way.
So this was lying as a waste.
This was lying
as a toxic material, as a pollutant.
As a polluted material, as a waste. So that we are using. So it's a good waste to wealth mantra. So it's an import substitute, it's a Make in India program, and removal of lead, which is we are taking from abroad, and which is a toxic material.
So this is the final...
different kind of tiles.
So the second thing is that you are also looking at...
cement-free concrete.
Cement-free concrete.
Yeah.
Why do you want to remove cement? What is it causing? After all, it's build our nations, build so many people's houses.
Yeah.
Right? So why are we against cement?
First thing, again, it is waste to wealth. We are using fly ash, we are using red mud, and making a product which is a cement-free. Okay. The other thing is cement produces CO2 emission.
Okay, so basically cement production essentially involves emission of carbon dioxide, so which is a global warming gas.
Yes.
So by removing it, actually we are also doing
about 80% reduction in CO2 emission.
That's a very interesting idea. Okay.
And then again, this is a waste material, so only transportation cost is involved.
Okay.
And then you can have cement-free product, you can have concrete. Here also you can have radiation productive, this cement-free concrete materials. So we are in touch with even atomic energy.
So this is again a kind of a concrete?
This is again a concrete, and this kind of compound is used for making the roads. We have demonstrated 2 places, one inside campus and one this near AIMS campus.
Okay.
And both the roads are being used.
In Bhopal.
Yeah, in Bhopal. And very recently we have transferred a technology here also to a company.
This technology is also now transferred.
Cement-free concrete.
So there is a huge amount of fly ash produced out of all our coal plants, right?
Yeah.
And they are lying outside waste, polluting the atmosphere. With this technology, you are thinking that you can remove it, maybe actually make it.
Utilize it to some extent. Like I showed there that granite finish, that is also from Tata Power.
Yeah.
That and here also you can have fly ash from different places and use it for some productive work. Yeah, and with better quality of the material.
This brings me to one interesting question. See, this institution, which today has a new name, AMPRI, was when it was formed, it was called as Regional Research Laboratory.
Yes.
It was supposed to provide instrumentation facilities, testing facilities for local industry. That was its limited scope.
Yes.
In those days,
Yes.
times have changed,
Yes.
things have changed, new issues have come before us.
Yes.
I mean, the world is seeing newer technologies like nanotechnology.
Yes.
So, if AMPRI as an institution has to make its mark, make its relevance in this new environment, what new things you think this institution should get involved in?
Well, when it was regional research laboratory, there were two aspects. One is to solve certain regional problems. Okay. And the other thing which you said in general, testing, calibration and those things. Now as time proceeds, demands are different. It's now a national institute of international repute. And the older research problems we still carry. And when research problem gets matured and properly understood, it becomes technology.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Technology doesn't come in 1 year.
Yeah, that's true.
We can publish paper in 1 year, but not technology.
Yes.
Okay. So probably some of the things which were started about 10 years back or 15 years.
Is actually now seeing the...
Now new challenges have come up. We are working on graphene. We are quite ahead compared to many other institutions in graphene. We are working on 3D printing of graphene metal composite.
Okay.
And if I am right, and to the best of my knowledge at least, we have got first published paper on graphene metal composite from India.
Okay, nice.
In international journal.
Okay, that's very interesting.
So that has come out just in this year. And so these are the challenging problems which we are taking up now. New materials, new concepts, new theories in the field of materials and processes we have taken up, and we are working very hard.
So you are reinventing yourself for the newer times.
Yeah, reinventing, and it's better to be at par with global research problems, and in some cases ahead of that.
Okay, so that we can actually become a developed nation or not only a developing nation.
We cannot be just follower.
Yeah.
We should be leader. If you want to be leader, you have to be ahead of that. It's not that something is published and then you start working. No, you have to give some new concept.
I think you well deserved it. I mean, looking at the kind of work that you have done in your whole career, and I'm sure the society and members and the whole material science community will benefit out of it. For want of time, we need to wind up this interview at this point of time. Thank you for being with us in this show. It was a very enlightening, I mean, both your personal journey and the institution and the kind of work that the institution is taking up and has achieved in the past years. It's very mind-boggling. Thank you for giving us time and being in this show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Keep watching Eureka. We'll come back with another interesting conversation next week, same time.